My name is Brad Hillier. I am an attorney. My office is in Yurksville. We have an office, a title company. I've got Renee Deem, who runs our title company in New Philadelphia, and I'm hoping that you guys will keep us in mind if you've got closing, whether it's oil and gas related or whatever. We do a great job. Renee's had 30 years of experience, and we turn our work around. We operate in all counties, so we have our cards on the table for you if you're interested. So, oil and gas, guys, in being in Canton, they're a little out of the game at the moment. But there is a huge amount of money that is being spent on leases, on buying minerals, selling minerals, and producing minerals. So I'm gonna start with this. So today, I have a client that has an oil and gas well located right about here in Carroll County. And he got his first check. Encino drilled the well. He's got 17 acres. He got his first monthly royalty check, $33,000. And that is not unusual. So they have been drilling these Utica wells in Ohio now for 14 years. First one was drilled in 2010 in right about, maps, so I'll have different maps for you, but it's in Harrison County, or Jewett Sportsman's Club near the village of Scio. So since then, they have drilled about 4,000. Things are very active because the technology for these wells came from Texas. So everybody in this room has seen old oil and gas wells all over the place. So that's not what we're doing. Those are Clinton wells. Those are vertical wells that were drilled in anywhere from the 1950s. We quit drilling those in about 1980. These wells encompass about, go to my next slide. Well, I believe that out just a second. So this is the play. So you can see that they are going to be drilling anywhere in this round area. Now, the best news for us is the liberal administration in New York has prohibited drilling oil and gas wells in New York State. So that's been great for Ohio. Pennsylvania, a lot of wells in Pennsylvania, but the wells, as you go from this direction to the west, are oil producers. So we are sitting on a very large oil window here. They make natural gas too, but natural gas pricing was horrible for producers. So until winter hit, we were locked in at about $2.32 an MCF of gas until we got this cold winter. Now it's up to about $4.50. But 10 years ago, natural gas prices, you may remember, were $12 a thousand. So the same gas you're buying for $2.32 has dropped by that much because we have so much of it. So the producers want the oil, and that's where we are. So I'm going to go to the next. Okay, so this is the map. So Columbiana County, Jefferson, Carroll, Stark, Tuscarawas. So these green lines, these wells are only drilled to the northwest and the southeast. They don't drill in any other direction. And the reason for that is the formation, if you remember from the Utica Shale, that previous map, the formation comes from Utica, New York. That's why it's called that. And it's basically fracked, like taking a stick and you crack the stick and it shows the layers. And that's what they're doing with these wells. So they crack it against the grain, basically. So the Utica wells are under us here in Canton are probably 7,800 feet deep. So the Clinton wells, the ones you see all over the place, are about 5,600 feet deep. So people ask me, say, oh my God, I can't, they're gonna ruin my water, they're gonna ruin my this or that. That is not true at all. I've been doing oil and gas and coal mine work for 43 years. I represented a lot of coal companies, and every time they took a coal vein out, somebody would lose their water because they're only at, our water table here is about 400 feet deep. So they mine at 600 feet, they take the coal seam out, and there's a clay layer above the, they take the coal out of the ground, they take the clay layer that holds the water in, the water falls in the hole and you lose your water. We don't have that with these. These wells are drilled, there's only one that will take up anywhere from 600 to 1,200 acres. So you could be, you could be here and be almost 4 miles away and still get the benefit of that well. So if you'll go to the next, so anyway, these are.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's a slide. Okay. So this gives you a little, so these green wells are ones that have been drilled more than 3 years ago. The blue are wells that have received a permit from the state of Ohio and are being drilled or have just been put into production. These ones that are striped are ones that a permit has been filed for but have not been drilled yet. Now, this all started over here. So the first well, this is the township where they drilled the first one. These wells in this area, Jefferson, Columbiana County, are primarily gas producers. So they're not going to drill anymore over there for a while because they just, I have my neighbor owns a farm, and I live just outside of Denison, and he owns a farm in Wintersville close to Steubenville. And he's had a well for 5 years that has produced not one barrel of oil, and so they've just shut things down there, but they are very active in our area. So this map, I did this map about 3 months ago. So it's very likely that a lot of these dark blue are now to the green. But the good news, it's like anything else, you do it over and over again and get better at it. And the drillers have gotten a lot better at production. So I used to tell my clients, and might want to write these numbers down. When they first started drilling these deep wells, I would tell my clients, you could expect $200 to $600 an acre a month. So if you had 10 acres, $2,000 a month on the low end and $6,000 on the high end. That number now is on the minimum I have seen, and I have probably more than 1,000 clients that are getting royalties from these wells now. $650 on the low end. And there is one well that is producing $3,000 an acre a month. So a lot of times and that well is actually pretty close to us. It's just outside the city of Yorksville, if you know where Yorksville is, which is where my law office is, but it's in Mill Township. It's this well right here.
I think you have it on the next slide.
Pardon?
I think you have it on the next slide.
Okay, yeah.
That it?
Oh, yeah, I'll just leave that up. So
Okay.
that is what one of these looks like. So this one is in Harrison County, and it was just drilled in April of 2023. So on the low end now, I tell clients $650 a month up to about $2,000 a month an acre. So
You said that's for oil or that's for gas?
that's just your royalty check. So
Whether
so
they're
it'll be
drilling-
both. It'll be both.
Okay.
All of them produce gas, and I should have said that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you just a real brief lesson in how they do this. So what they do, they come in and they drill down. And they normally put 4 legs off of that same hole. And these are about 10 acres. So if you have a well on your property, they're gonna take about 10 acres of your land to drill it. But then it will go to the northwest or the southeast. And they will drill down with a rig about 8,000 feet. The rig has a pipe. As it drills, you screw the pipe in. You've seen probably this before. And then they cement it. They do what they call cementing it in. So they then take the drill head off and they pour forced liquid cement down the middle of the hole that they just drilled in there. And that cement comes up the outside of that 4-inch production pipe. The pipe at the top is down about 2,000 feet and it's 8 inches. So that cement seals that steel pipe in place. And then they drill back through, they drill that cement out that they just put in it. And then they bring in another rig that does the horizontal drill. So, and that rig will produce a 4-inch pipe. And so I was out on one of these rigs here last summer. There's this 19-year-old kid sitting there and it looks like he's playing a video game, but he's got the drill head has a GPS on it. So the Utica Shale formation is not flat across underground. It goes in waves. So he's sitting there and they want to keep that drill head right in the middle of that shale. So he's moving the drill head and the shale formation is about 110 feet thick. So, and if you're, I tell people I have my office is a 1905 law office and it's got the original slate roof on it. So slate is dried shale. So if you are ever going south on I-77 and you pass by Newcomerstown before you get to Cambridge on the I-77 exit, right near the Kimball exit, there's actually, when they put the highway in, they made a cut through Utica Shale that's right on the surface. So you can see it on both sides of the road. It looks like it's a block about this thick. And it looks like coal, but it's actually shale. So if you're thinking about that driving, keep an eye on that. But that's what the shale looks like underground, but it's very soft. So they drill down, they do the same thing. So they put the pipe in the ground horizontally, force cement in again, comes out the outside of it, same way. Then they take that, drill through that, then they put it looks like a child's toy, but it's what they call shooting the hole. So it's on a wire line and it's forced by both air pressure and this wire line. It's electric and it shoots holes in that steel at various locations. So it spins and so it shoots like 5 holes in this area, and then they'll go a couple feet and 5 more. And so they shoot those holes in. So they put a rubber stopper, looks like a plunger on a toilet plunger, but it's a very hard piece of rubber that's got a hole in the middle of it. They force that in and then they stage frack these wells. So what they do is they take a 6,000 horsepower engine and force water and a liquid clay through those holes. It goes out through those holes into the side of the shale formation and under heavy pressure. So they have to do it in stages because a lot of these wells are 5 miles long. The longest right now is 6 miles, but most of them are between 2 and 4 miles horizontally. So that rock is cracked and that pressure, these wells come in at about 5,000 pounds of pressure. So as soon as the engine is shut off, it forces all that water back through those holes, and then they collect that, and then they put that in, they dump that back in the ground. That you've seen a lot. I don't know if you've been in the area, but you've seen a bunch of tanks. So they put those tanks, they put that frack water back in the ground, and then immediately that pressure, that gas pressure is forces the oil out, which is what they want. And they want the gas too. So the gas is all piped out. So they have pipelines for gas, but the oil right now, we don't have oil pipelines. So the oil has to be trucked out. And a lot of it goes right here to Canton, the Marathon plant just south of Canton here, and a lot of it also goes to Caddis. There's a plant there, and there's a plant in Scioto. So, and these take about a year. So once the permit is granted, this drilling unit has already been granted, and you see this is the tank. That's the tank that they will collect the frack water until they put it back in the ground, but then they bring in these, it takes an enormous amount of water to frack these, so. Right now, they were taking it out of the Muskegon watershed lakes, out of Tappan and Atwood, and then we had the drought, so now they're taking it out of the Tuscarawas River. But it takes millions of gallons to frack one, so. So it takes about a year, and then you, if you're the landowner, you're gonna start getting a royalty check every month. And the life expectancy on these wells is, they have hearings every time they grant a permit. The state of Ohio, the Department of Natural Resources grants a permit, they have to have a hearing. And they will testify, I have an economist testify, and a geologist and a landman that. So the most recent testimony is these wells have a shelf life of 38 years. Now, you're not gonna get $2,000 an acre a month for 38 years, and there's certainly a drop off, but we have wells in production now that have been in production for 12 years, and they're still producing about 35% of what they originally did. So a lot of money. So, so what this means, okay, if you can advance it a little bit, you see what's next. So that's a little better view. So these are water trucks, and they're pumping the water out of that into this to frack this well. It's being fracked at that time. So that's what that is. Okay.
Once once it's done, like pumping out oil and gas, how long does it take for it to like rejuvenate itself, or is it done forever?
We don't know, because none of them have died yet. So
Okay.
the oldest is 14 years and they're still in production, but the good news about these is that I think at last count, they drilled 4,200 of them, and only 3 of them have been bad. So unlike the Clinton wells, the old wells you see around here, a lot of those were drilled and just were never very good, and they got plugged, and but these things, the technology is so good now that they're not, you know, they do seismic testing, they test for these, and every single one of them to a T have been productive. So
How is it affected? Like, I know like out in Tuswell, there's areas that have mine shafts, coal mine shafts underneath, like.
well, we got that everywhere, so
So this
no
doesn't
effect.
affect any of
They
them?
go right through the,
Okay,
yeah, so the cement, when they cement these pipes, the last thing the oil and gas company wants is water from an old coal mine in their well. So when you've got steel pipe and you've got cement on the outside of it, there's been no intrusion in any of these wells that, you know, and I'd be the first to tell you if there was. And you may remember a couple of years ago, they were lighting in Pennsylvania, I forget that guy's name, but he had a television show, and he was showing how they were lighting the water and the water was burning. Well, that's absolutely true, but that's from coal mining. That wasn't from oil and gas, because when you take the coal out, coal has methane gas in it. So when you take it out and you're only 400, 500 feet deep, it leaches up to the surface. So I could probably go to my house, and I live close to old coal mines. I'd probably light my water if I wanted to.
So when you're saying that they return the water, and the frack water into the earth, is it in a container or do they release it into the earth?
They are putting it back into another oil and gas formation, not the one they produce. So most of the most of the frac water goes into the Clinton sand, which is a sandstone. So they're drilling shale, but the old wells you see here now are sandstone. So that sandstone has been cracked and it is very porous after it's been cracked. So the frac water goes back in about 50, around here about 5,200 feet deep. So there's been no, like I said, there was one environmental incident up in Youngstown about 8 years ago where they were gonna put in a disposal well to put the frac water in the ground, and they went down to the primordial rocks. They went 15,000 feet down, and that caused a minor earthquake. So you may have heard, remembered about that. So that has been disallowed. So they only allow them to put it into previously mined oil and gas formations. Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing that we run into on occasion is somebody who's out looking to buy a decent amount of land. They go out there and the current owner says, well, we don't know who owns the mineral rights. And what the new owner wants to do is find out how can they go about actually buying the mineral rights in addition to land. I guess that's what I'm looking for out of this is.
Okay, well, and I'm gonna get to how you guys make some money here instead of me just listening, me tell you how other people. So, here's the, so
Now you're talking about.
now we're getting to where you really want. So let's skip down a little bit here. So, like I said, a lot of times, if you have clients that even have a small amount of it, 1 or 2 acres, they're gonna be putting, how many people know where Lake Mohawk is? You know somewhere Lake Mohawk, all of Lake Mohawk is being drilled now. That's how close they are. So they're taking all those parcels that surround Lake Mohawk, half-acre parcels or less. And the oil and gas company called EOG has leased all of them. And those folks are gonna get royalties. Those wells have been drilled or are gonna be completed here shortly. So there's almost 7 wells just in the Lake Mohawk area to the northwest towards Canton. So, and we've had some drilling in Canton. Malvern has got a lot of acreage drilled into Stark County, Minerva, Malvern. Now, those wells right now have not been as good as the ones to the southeast, but they're still good. You know, I've never seen anybody get less than $300 or $400 an acre a month. So the way to answer your question, so about 15 years ago, now when this Utica boom started, the title insurance industry, I was doing a seminar, and I don't want to take all the credit for this, but I was doing a seminar for the Ohio Land Title Agency organization about oil and gas and title insurance. And I told them, I said, you guys don't understand, you are ensuring that the minerals are with this property, even though in a lot of cases they weren't, because in the 1940s and 50s, a lot of the coal and the minerals were split off. Somebody was gonna sell their surface, they sold the minerals, and so the title insurance industry then changed the title policy so that the minerals are not insured. If you look at any of your clients there'll be a specific waiver in there, so we don't insure. So the only way to know is to run a title search. So oil and gas title searches are expensive because we started drilling wells in Ohio in 1859. And because of decisions from the Supreme Court, if the minerals were split off of the surface, then the mineral owner, even if it was great grandma in 1900, gave it to her son who disappeared, that son still owns the minerals. So you have to clear title, and so normally I don't do title work, but we do a lot of title. I said that the wrong way. We don't do oil and gas searches for the industry. We do it for individuals, because the the oil and gas companies really don't care what Brad Hillier says about the title. They're putting in a lot of money to get a lease, and so they do it themselves. Because one of those wells costs $40 million to drill. So, and the last thing in the world they want is to find out that you own the minerals instead of the guy that took the lease. So you do not have to, the only way to know is to do a title search, but the rule of thumb is if your client, you're gonna sell somebody's house, they wanna sell their house, they wanna know, or buy a house, and they wanna know if they're getting the mineral rights. If the prior owner was getting a check from an oil and gas company for an old shallow well, then he owns the minerals because he wouldn't be getting a check otherwise. So anybody that's in a lease and getting paid, don't have to worry about a search because you got your answer. If there has been a mineral search, most people are likely to still own their minerals unless it's a very large piece of property and it's in one of those counties that have been heavily drilled, like Harrison or Kimball. Then they probably, and they have a smaller acreage, they're probably going to own those minerals. Now, you're gonna get a test here from me in a little bit, but one of the things, and this is one of the ways to make some money here. If you have a client that is in an area that is likely to be included in a well, and that within that. What you wanna do is suggest to the landowner when they're selling their home. Hey, keep the mineral rights, or don't keep mineral rights, just keep oil and gas rights, because there's other minerals, there's shale and there's gravel and sand and so forth, but we don't want to keep coal, nobody wants coal anymore, so. You can split off the minerals, you can sell them, there are mineral buyers everywhere now. And a lot of times, the minerals, in some cases, are worth more than the surface of that vacant land. So you just, and you don't have to do a separate survey for it, you just give a deed to, I'm gonna deed 10 acres of minerals to Encino, I'm gonna keep the surface, I'm gonna sell the surface to Joe Smith. Now, some of your buyers are gonna say, well, wait a minute, I don't want somebody else owning the minerals on my property. So what you do, you say, look, let's split. I'll keep half, the owner of the property will keep half. The mineral buyer will get half, and the landowner will still own half the minerals, so they'll still get a check every month. But you can keep them, and you're gonna get money going into the future. And a lot of times, the minerals are way more valuable than the house ever was. So, if you're getting $2,000 or $3,000 a month for 20 years, your house wasn't likely to be worth that much money. So, always suggest if there's some, and again, they're taking parcels a half acre less. So you don't have to own 50 acres to be involved in the mineral industry. I get letters every day from oil and gas buyers, people that want to buy minerals. And I want to tell you that what realtors that don't do this kind of work don't understand this. If let's say I'm from Texas and I'm a mineral buyer, I want to buy minerals in Ohio and Stark County. I have to be a licensed realtor to buy or sell those minerals. And unless I am buying them for my own use. So if I work for Encino is a big mineral producer. I have to, if I'm just a landman or I'm a realtor in Texas, I have to have a license from the state of Ohio to sell those minerals. You guys are already licensed, so you can buy and sell minerals without going through this. And I've had to turn a lot of mineral buyers in from out of state because they were not licensed and they were taking advantage of people. They were buying them for nothing, and because of the folks didn't know any better that the minerals weren't worth it. Because right now, in certain areas of eastern Ohio, um. Even if it's not drilled, even if you have an old lease, you've got an old, you have 30 acres and. And there's been a Clinton well sitting there and you're getting $10 a month and I want to sell those minerals. They're worth probably 15 to anywhere from 10 to $20,000 an acre, to sell those. So, and, you know, these Texas buyers know that because all the wells, they know in advance what wells are gonna be drilled. So you're gonna get, your clients are gonna get letter after letter wanting to sell their minerals so if you get into that situation, like I said, you got somebody that's got a couple acres and they're anywhere that's within that map I showed you. You might want to consider recommending them, hey, let's sell half of them. You keep the other half and then you've got a retirement nest egg company. So, yeah, go ahead.
If the person who owns those mineral oil gas rights passes away, then does the next person like inherit them?
Yeah,
No.
yes, they're just like the surface of the property. They are transferable to your heirs. You can do it in your will. You can prepare a transfer on death deed of the minerals to your kids.
So it goes to the
So-
person, not the land?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you put it in a state?
Pardon?
Can you put it in a state as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, so you can, it's just like a deed to a house now, so minerals are deeded. That way, and I have many clients that have put them, you know, transfer on death, the minerals are already producing, they get a check every month when they die. We just notify the oil and gas company that there's the new owner, kids of the new owner, we send them a notice and they start sending the checks, so they're fully transferable. Yeah.
Brad, just, when we do those mineral reservations to like the seller, on the deed, we have accepting and reserving them to the grantors, their heirs and assigns. That's where that comes into play. So
Yeah.
if your seller's gonna keep his minerals, you wanna make sure that's on that deed before they
Yeah.
sign it.
Now, one of the mistakes that I see made, gotta be aware of. You want to reserve the oil and gas minerals, not the oil and gas royalties. Because the royalties can be extinguished, because if the well dies, now these wells haven't died, but these old Clinton wells do. You potentially could lose the ability to get the minerals, so you always want to reserve the oil and gas minerals underlying the property for your clients. Or if you're buying and selling, you want those mineral rights to, oil and gas rights to go to the buyer or seller, depending on what you're doing, okay? The other thing, if you have clients that are gonna sell their home. And they're sitting on it, and they say, well, you know, we don't really wanna, you know, we really don't want to keep them, you know, maybe they're late in age, then. You wanna look around for a premium for that, so you wanna make the buyer pay a higher price, you know, because the potential to get a couple $1,000s a month from a 4 or 5 acre property makes that extremely valuable. So, and a lot of people have, there's a lot of Texans now, but they got a new kind of scam. So they're offering to buy, they go look at the title. And they say, they see some elderly person that owns 10 acres in an area that, and they say, well, look, we'll give you, you know. If the going price for that acreage is 4,000 or 5,000, they offer them $10,000 an acre. Well, you know, they jump on that because they don't realize that how valuable those oil and gas rights are under there. So right now, in certain areas, the minerals are much more valuable than the vacant surface. I have a case coming up that, we're trying to split this large farm up between these folks and we had the surface valued at 3,500 an acre and the mineral rights are valued at 12,000. And of course, the guy on the other side, he wants the minerals and might want to keep the surface, but we're not gonna do that.
who values that? So, because the secondary question is, like, let's say that the rights stay with, like, the seller is gonna have them stay with the house. And like you said, does that increase the value of the house? Will an appraiser recognize that when they come to
No,
appraise
so
the
you
home?
call Brad Hillier, you need to appraise, there's only a couple, it depends on a lot of things, depends on where it is, how close the drilling is to it. But there is, the appraisers, we have some great appraisers in the Canton area, we use them all the time, but they are not qualified to value minerals, so. If you got something like that, I have another guy that I use if I have a case, in Pennsylvania, and he does the valuations for me, but it's very limited in, who's available, so, so do not let. Every mortgage company requires an appraisal, and if you're sitting on some acreage. If anywhere south of Canton or west of Canton. Or in Coshocton, any of those counties I listed, then that appraisal is not likely gonna be accurate. So, we'll keep that in mind. Anybody else have any questions? So I'll move on here a bit. So,
The next one is typical old oil and gas lease in Ohio.
yes. Okay, all right, so. All right, so this gets maybe a little more technical than you need to be. So this is what old oil and gas leases look like. I see this form 30 times a month. Almost every well that was drilled that you see in these old wells around here, and every county, everywhere around here has one of these leases. If you buy a property, or you have a client that buys a property, you have to notify the oil and gas company that you have a new buyer. It's not the duty of the oil and gas company to come knock around the door and say, hey, did you buy this property? We're gonna hand you your check. I have had a lot of clients over the years, and Renee and my title company does this routinely. We notify, as part of the closing, we're selling the property, the minerals are transferring. We get a W-9 from the client. We send the notice to the oil and gas company, make sure that those royalties get transferred. I had a situation here with some Amish people that down near Sugar Creek, and the guy bought 100 acres, and the landowner kept a valuable well, 2 acres. My client the Amish guy got the minerals, 17 years, never notified the oil and gas company. The neighbor that he sold him the property ended up with $680,000 of money that should have never gone to him because he didn't give him the notice. Nothing you can do about it, you're required to give him the notice, so the new leases are much better than this old thing. You're stuck with a 12.5% royalty. If you have an old Clinton well and you're in that lease, and drill a deep well, you're gonna get 12.5% from that, instead of a 20% royalty, which is what the going rate is now. So if you have a clean property, no lease at all. Oil and gas company comes to you, they want to lease it. You can get a bonus payment of anywhere from Stark County area, probably $2,000 an acre to sign it. And you can get up to an 18% royalty for Stark County or Minerva or Malvern in that area. If that property was in Harrison County near Caddis, it would be 20% and almost 6,000 an acre. So, and that money does not come off the royalties, it's just a payment up front, and that's what you get, so.
Minerva, they're signing at $9,000 an acre
All right,
in Minerva. Off of
No.
183, my father-in-law just signed the thing,
So we should buy land in Minerva
you
right
know,
now.
and I have land in Harrison County too.
good.
How much you selling?
I've not seen any $9,000 numbers.
Yeah, he signed, yeah.
I'm sure he didn't sell them, right?
I don't think he sold them,
I hope
no.
not.
I
That was
hope
just
not.
a modification of the lease, is what he signed.
He signed, I'll look,
Okay,
I'll look.
Well-
Is that because Nexus runs to Minerva?
no,
No?
no, the shale formation, as you can see from them, is everywhere. But as you go to the west, so. The formation starts very deep in Pennsylvania, like almost 11,000 feet. By the time you get to Columbus. The Utica shale there is only gonna be about 4,500 feet deep. So there's not enough rock pressure. That's gonna liquefy gas pressure that's gonna force that oil. So that's why they're moving slowly to the west, but Tuscarawas County where I live and Philadelphia, Dover. They're gonna get a lot of well activity that started already. Carroll County, as you know, Carroll County got a lot of drilling 10 years ago. They were not as good as the wells in Harrison County near Caddis, but now the technology improvements have made them that good. So that's why they're drilling at Malvern and Minerva, et cetera. So but I'm gonna have to get the name of who did that one. So it's probably EOG is most of the companies that are drilling in that area. So
I'll give it to you.
so guys, so I'm gonna hand out, I want you to give you one of these. And this, I didn't do this because it'll get you thinking about when you're keeping minerals in mind for sale, so.
There's somebody sitting here now,
Okay.
and somebody sitting there.
Oh. You're not gonna get a prize if you get them all right, though. Get it done.
We don't get 1 acre of
Yeah.
$2,000.
No, I wish you would.
That'd be sweet.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over these with you guys and okay, so, you can answer the first question because I already gave you. So, everybody knows what that is, right?
Yes.
The answer is yes, okay. So, you got the answer to the second question. Now, what's the answer to the second question?
No.
Right. Okay, so what's the answer to the third question? Joe Smith wishes to sell his surface, 15 acres in Tuscarawas County and obtain the minerals. He's permitted to do so.
Yes.
Good, you're right.
So
We have a very specific way to do that. So if you're gonna do it, please let my title company handle it. There are title companies up here that do not understand the difference between a royalty and a mineral reservation, and they don't understand that if they don't put specific language, when that person dies that reserved the minerals, they may lose them.
I just got a deal, it was Noble County property, the title company was in Columbus, and they refused to put a mineral reservation on the deed and said it was illegal in the state of Ohio, and they would not
Okay.
do it. I ended up, they canceled the deal with that title company, and brought everything to me. There's title companies that do not know and understand oil and gas, just be aware.
So I'm
Okay.
curious with that, will that be some type of easement that they're like, how do they get access to it even though they have this service?
Remember, there's only gonna be one property out of the 600 or 800 acres it's gonna have a drilling well on.
Yeah,
So you don't have a very good chance of having that on you, and you don't want it. So every lease I do, if a landowner comes to me, I put no surface use. So we sign a oil and gas lease, new lease. We put in there no surface use. We don't want, you don't want to sell your house. Keep the minerals and have the house you just sold, somebody shows up with a drilling rig and says, oh, by the way, we're gonna drill a well here. So we put no surface use clauses in. We also put no title guarantee, because remember, they told you, gotta look at 170 years of title. And your title insurance does not cover that. So when I do a lease, I tell the oil and gas company, look, our clause says the landowner does not guarantee title. So if you take this lease, you pay my client, and you find out you bought a pig in a poke, that's your problem. So they can't come back on you to get the money back.
But there's also state laws that say they can't go within so many feet.
Yeah, they have to be, yeah, so a lot of people, that's a good question, right? A lot of people ask me, remember, these wells are the biggest unit right now is about 1,300 acres and it's 6 miles long. And at the base of that rectangle, you can go back to that map. Couple sheets back, so.
This one?
Yeah, yeah, so, okay, so. At the base, let's say this is the well we're drilling right here. At the base, it's about. Usually 1,500 to 2,000 feet apart, and normally they drill 4 legs, so each leg will be 500 feet apart. But they will go out miles, so you don't want, if you happen to get in a lease or you have a client that's gonna get in a lease. You don't want them, you know, they'll offer you money to put the pad on your property, but you see how much acreage they take, so. You know, they can't pay you enough money to put it on there, you send it, let your neighbor have the benefit of that pad on your property, because you still get the same amount of money. Whether you have a pad or not, and so these things make a lot of racket too, there's a lot of noise. The truck traffic from just the one I was telling you about that, is one of the best in Ohio. Takes 90 trucks a day to take the oil off of that. Those oil tankers hold 220 barrels of oil. And you can imagine the traffic in front of your property, and so send them your neighbor.
So I just wanna make sure I understand this right then. Basically, I'm Bozo that puts it on my property.
Mhm.
All right, and Bree owns her mineral rights, and because it's within that area, she gets paid from the one I put on my property. So,
No, yes,
so
yeah,
I get paid.
all
for
those
mineral
people
rights?
in there do.
Okay,
So if you keep the mineral rights, if you're in the drilling bit, if you're in that 600 acre path, you get, whether the pipe goes under you or not, you get paid. So, okay, look at number 4, it's important, okay, Joe Smith has near his property, no claim. Is currently producing oil and gas revenue, so he gets a check. Joe wants to sell the surface and keep the revenue from the well. What should he do?
You need oil and gas minerals.
Right, exactly. B is the answer, because if you keep B, you get A. So remember, don't keep just the royalties, you
Yeah.
want the mineralship ownership,
You
okay?
said if you just keep the royalties, you may lose B, correct?
Right, yes, yeah, if the well goes bad, you lost your royalties, so, okay, look at number 5. So Sweet Susie wants to buy Joe's surface, but Joe does not want to sell her the minerals. What should Sweet Susie be concerned about if she buys the surface without the minerals?
She's out money potentially.
Hmm?
She's out
Well,
money potentially.
Yeah, but the real crux of that question is, you want that. And I just mentioned this briefly, you want a no surface use clause, you want that mineral buyer. The guy that's gonna keep it, to put in his deed in that minerals that I will not enter Susie's property to put a well on. Because the minerals in Ohio are the king, minerals trump the surface ownership because they're so much more valuable. So if I sign it, and this gives an example of this, so. About 8 years ago, we have a large property outside of Denison that a guy put a deer farm on. He grows these big deer and brings people in from Georgia to shoot the deer in a 100-acre enclosure. Well, anyway.
Where at?
It's
Yeah.
Outside of Denison.
it's right on State Route 800, not just outside of Denison. So,
Like a real hunter.
yeah, oh no, yeah, that's real exciting to shoot a deer in the fence. But, so what happened, so he builds this beautiful lodge, and he's flying people in, or paying $10,000 a day to shoot trophy deer in an enclosure, and oil and gas, or I'm sorry, coal company shows up and says, oh, by the way, we bought the coal in 1931. And it passed down, we're gonna put a opening, we're gonna put a, what they call a drift opening in the front, right in front of his lodge. So and remember what I told you, that at that time, the minerals were still insured because they just made the change in the law about 15 years ago. So the title insurance company, and we didn't write the title insurance, but the title insurance company had to buy that property back from him. And it cost them, he put $1 million in, so, but he wanted more money than that, but that's all the insurance allowed, but they were literally gonna put a opening, a drift opening, when you walk, it's not when you take an elevator to, you walk. You just keep walking down, down and down until you're down 600 feet, and so it would take a huge tunnel to do that, but, they had that right, because they own those minerals since that year, so. So the answer to the question is, if you got a client that's gonna keep their minerals, and Renee is gonna put in the deed that the mineral owner will not sign an agreement granting surface rights to the house, so you don't get a gravel pit in your front yard. And I can tell you, none of the title companies in this area will understand that, yeah.
So just trying to understand it a little further. So if I have a buyer I'm representing and the previous, the seller, they don't know necessarily if they have mineral rights or not, they've never really thought about that, but like 8 previous sellers, they kept them. The only way we would know, because title's not necessarily doing the search for mineral rights, we would have to ask that to find out what the mineral rights are.
You could go back and do so under Ohio law, if we're just doing a house sale.
Mhm.
To grant title insurance, we have to go back 42 years. To the root of title, and then you have clear title to the house. But most of these old wells were drilled way longer ago than that, so the question, when you're representing a buyer or seller, you wanna question the seller, hey, did you ever get an oil and gas check? Did the guy you bought it from ever get an oil and gas check? Why do you think you don't own the minerals? And like I said, it doesn't pop up very often, but, if we have a situation with that well, that lease that I showed you, an old lease, so. House is already there, they drill a well, old Clinton well in 1975, still producing. But this guy's got a bigger acre, so your seller's got a big acre, you got a buyer that wants that acreage. And the seller wants to keep the minerals, so what you do, you can't stop. The existing oil and gas company from having access to the property, because it's already was granted 50 years ago. So what we do in that case is, we put in our deeds, I'm the buyer or I'm the seller, I'm gonna keep the 50 acres of minerals and the royalties. We put in the deed to the new buyer, the seller will not sign any new leases that grant access to the surface. So you can prohibit him from making it worse. You can't make it any better, but again, it's only happens occasionally, because we're taking 10 acres for a pad out of a 600 or 800 acre piece. So most of the oil and gas companies are not going to, they're not gonna put a big pad beside your house, but they do have a right to put pipelines and other things across the property. So you need to block them from making it any worse in the future. Okay, all right, let me.
So, but you would have to do that other history. Yes, certainly.
Yes, you gotta do, yeah, you'll have to do but we can tell, okay, so let me, go to that, I can show you a way you can tell pretty quickly, so. Go to the next slide, the one that showed that. No, keep going, next one, there was a well.
It was the previous one to that.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, I think it's,
Like a lease?
yeah, no, it was a.
A drawing.
Oh, the picture.
No,
This?
no,
No, I
going
think
the
it's
other way, go the
previous.
other way. Yeah, keep going. Okay, next, right there. Okay, so. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources has a website. It used to be horrible to navigate, now it's not. So if you go to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Oil and Gas Division. It will call up, the wells in the state of Ohio. Now, this is what you will find. So let's say this well's in Guernsey County. Every one of them has an API number. It's a number associated, and that API number began in 1900. So what we do, if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I've got an old, I don't know if I own my minerals or if there's an old lease or whatever. So what we do, the first thing we do is we go to this site. And you can, it'll call up, and I don't know if I have that map. On, keep going, no, it's right there, okay. So,
You want a map?
well, I wanted an oil and gas map, but it's.
Oh, is
shallow.
this it?
Yeah, leave that, leave that,
Okay,
okay.
Sorry, I'm not.
So. This is what happened if you're gonna get in a deep well. You get a certified letter from the Ohio Department, every landowner that is within this unit will get a certified letter saying your property is in a unit, and it'll say whether you're leased or not leased. So you can go in, some people choose not to sign leases, they're still gonna get a royalty. But you know, some people are opposed to oil and gas drilling, some people don't know if they own the minerals or not, and or they can't find them, so. But the first thing we do is we find there's an overlay on that website that shows every old well in the state of Ohio. And it's literally everywhere. And you'll see that map if you check that site. So first thing we do, if we're not sure, we go to the map and we see if there's a producing well or non-producing. So it tells you that on that well. So skip back to that one with the map or all those numbers on it. Just I think one or two back.
No.
No. I think you're going the wrong way. Back, okay, so this is what you'll find. So what I do is I send my client, if he wants to lease his minute, I send him out in a 1 mile radius around his property, every direction. I have him take a camera and I have him take a picture of these old Clinton wells, because they're everywhere. And those wells have an API number. So then we go on the website and we find it. This particular well's in Guernsey County. And it tells me it's producing. Now, that doesn't always mean it is. This one happens to be. So go to the next page.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah.
Please, some people are gonna have to leave.
Okay.
Got another
All
class.
right. Well, let me ask you this. Does anybody have any question or that I didn't know? So we would love to have your business. If you've got oil and gas questions, I'm gonna give you my phone number because I forgot to bring my card from my law office. So I'm gonna give you the phone number at the law firm is 740-922-4161. And I'll give you my email. You can email me a question if you have a question. It's Hillyer, HILLYER, law at HilyerLawOffice.com. So be happy to help you and I'd really rather you call me. If you got a question, because like I said, there are a lot of people that have been taken advantage of by out of state mineral, it's just terrible. Guy lost $1 million of minerals for $30,000.
What were the last 4 digits of your
4161.
4160.
Let me just reiterate, with oil and gas, you're not gonna close in 30 days. For us to do a mineral search, on average, we try to rush it. But I have an on-staff abstractor that will go to any county, and he goes back to the 1800s if he has to see if there's any recommendations, whatever. 60 days, give us 60 days on average. It's depending on the acreage and how far back he has to go and how detailed. If he goes more than $1,000, he's gonna stop and say, hey, this is a mess. This is what I'm into. I'll probably get another day or two to find this. So be patient and understand there's gonna be more costs involved in that, but in the end, your seller is gonna get rewarded or your buyer.
These wells guys have built brand new $600 million schools in Carroll County, Harrison County, which is one of the poorest counties in the state. As you've been out to Harrison Central, I mean, it's a beautiful
Valley.
complex.
I graduated from Canaan Valley.
Canaan Valley.
My graduating class was 28.
Yeah.
We didn't even have lights on our football field. Now they have a bowling alley in there.
Yeah.
Like serious,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's a game changer for a lot of folks, that never had much wealth, and, now, you're not gonna see wells drilled under the city of Canton, but in small villages, like the village of Bowerston, little, small lots, they've leased it all, because it's that valuable, so, don't just assume because it's close to the big municipality that you're not gonna get in.
Thank
All
you.
right, well, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to call me, and I appreciate coming, and we'd love to have some work from you, and also, don't be afraid to call if you got a question, because, we're.
If Brad's not available, please get over to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your name?
My main thing, so I'm not, my family is not from, that was, my mom was. 30